She walked into the luxury villa lobby in sandals and a sundress, greeted with a dismissive glance and a condescending smile. What happened next left the entire room speechless. The morning sun spilled across the polished marble floors of Solara villas, casting golden streaks that danced through the tall glass windows. Palms swayed lazily outside, and the scent of salt and hibiscus drifted in with the breeze. Inside the lobby, everything whispered wealth: curved oak desks, designer vases, soft jazz humming beneath the hush of quiet luxury. Ariel Monroe stepped inside wearing a flowing linen sundress, sandals, and a wide-brimmed straw hat that shaded her warm brown eyes. Her locks were pulled into a simple bun, and her only jewelry was a thin gold bracelet, worn smooth with age. She moved with ease, taking in the art on the walls, the arch of the staircase, the subtle attention to detail that only someone with vision could truly appreciate. Behind the front desk, a young woman in a crisp blazer glanced up. Chloe, blonde, poised, with a practiced smile that flickered off the moment she saw Ariel. Her eyes scanned the woman's attire, then darted toward the sliding glass doors as if expecting someone more fitting to follow. Ariel approached the desk, her voice gentle. "Good morning." Chloe didn't return the greeting. "The beach access is just outside to the left," she said flatly. "Public entry is down the path, marked clearly." Ariel blinked. "Actually, I wanted to ask—" Chloe cut her off. "I'm sorry, but this property is exclusive to registered guests. We can't allow outside visitors to tour the grounds." There was no warmth in her tone, only clipped politeness wrapped in condescension. She hadn't asked for a name. She hadn't even looked Ariel in the eyes. The lobby had quieted just slightly, the way it does when discomfort tugs at the air. Ariel remained calm, her face unreadable. She looked down at the marble tiles for a moment, then back at Chloe, studying her as if deciding something. "I understand," she said softly. "May I speak to the general manager?" Chloe blinked, taken off guard. "I'm sorry, the manager's very busy. Do you have a reservation?" Ariel's smile was slight, barely there. "Let's just say, I'm expected." Chloe hesitated, eyes narrowing just enough to betray irritation. "Ma'am, I really must ask that you not disturb." But Ariel was already pulling out her phone, her fingers moving with calm precision. One call, a name spoken, a pause. Then, from behind a frosted glass door, the sound of hurried footsteps. Moments later, the manager, a tall man in a navy suit, his face flushed, burst into the lobby. The second he saw Ariel, he stopped short, his posture shifting like a man just realizing he'd been walking a tightrope in the dark. "Ms. Monroe," he said breathlessly. "Welcome." And just like that, the temperature in the room changed. Chloe's face drained of color. Ariel said nothing. She didn't have to. The silence that followed the manager's greeting stretched thin. Chloe stood frozen, her lips slightly parted, the color draining from her cheeks like wine spilling from a glass. She glanced at the manager, then back at Ariel, searching for an explanation that wouldn't come. Ariel offered a polite smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I was just asking about one of the villas," she said, her voice calm, deliberate. "The oceanfront suite with the infinity pool." The manager looked stricken, caught between apology and protocol. But Chloe, still clinging to a sense of misplaced authority, stepped in. "Those are our premium villas," she said quickly, trying to steady her tone. "Quite exclusive and rather pricey. Most guests book well in advance." Ariel tilted her head slightly, her gaze fixed on Chloe with quiet curiosity. "Is that so?" Chloe nodded, her voice tightening. "Yes, and we don't generally offer tours, especially not to walk-ins. We've had issues in the past with people from the beach trying to come in just to look around." The words hung in the air like smoke, heavy, visible, impossible to ignore. A man in linen pants and aviators, lounging in one of the lobby's armchairs, shifted uneasily. His newspaper lowered just an inch. Nearby, a young couple at the coffee station exchanged glances. The atmosphere, once light and luxurious, had grown brittle. Ariel's smile didn't falter. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't flinch. Instead, she placed her phone gently on the reception counter, folding her hands beside it. "I see," she said, her voice soft but steady. "So I don't look like the kind of person who belongs here." Chloe blinked. "That's not what I said." "No," Ariel replied, "but it's what you meant." The silence that followed was different now. Sharper. More aware. The murmur of the jazz music in the background seemed suddenly too loud, the clink of a spoon against a porcelain cup jarring. The manager cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Ms. Monroe, please forgive the confusion. Of course, you're more than welcome to view any of the villas. Would you like a personal tour?" Chloe's jaw tensed. She didn't speak. Ariel turned toward her, eyes steady. "You know," she said, her tone even, "people often reveal who they are not with what they say, but how they say it." And then, calmly, she turned to the manager and nodded. "Let's begin the tour." Chloe stood behind the desk, shoulders drawn in, watching as Ariel walked away. Every step echoed louder than the last. Not one word had been shouted, but the message was deafening. Chloe's fingers hovered near the small button beneath the front desk, subtle, discreet, meant for calling security in delicate situations. Her hand trembled slightly, but her voice carried a practiced firmness. "Ma'am, if you don't leave, I'll have to ask for assistance. This is a private property." Ariel didn't move. She didn't flinch. Instead, she pulled out her phone. Smooth. Effortless. Like she'd done this 100 times before. No raised voice, no dramatics. Just a calm swipe, a few taps, and a brief, measured sentence. "Yes, I'm in the lobby. Can you come out, please?" She ended the call and looked up, serene. Seconds passed. Chloe shifted uncomfortably, the weight of the room beginning to press in on her. The receptionist glanced at the other guests, some now clearly watching. A woman with a sun hat lowered her sunglasses. The man in the linen pants from earlier leaned forward, his arms folded, sensing something was unfolding, something worth witnessing. Then came the sound of fast steps across tile. The frosted glass doors behind the lobby opened with a burst, and a man in a tailored navy suit appeared. Tall, tan, sweat beading along his hairline. His pace slowed the moment he saw her. "Ms. Monroe," he breathed, adjusting his tie as if trying to compose himself mid-sprint. My apologies. I didn't realize you'd arrived." Chloe's entire posture changed. She looked between the two of them, confused at first. Then she understood. Marco's voice was unsteady, but respectful. "Is there anything wrong?" Ariel's smile was small but pointed. "We were just having a little conversation about who belongs here, and who doesn't." Marco paled. He turned slowly toward Chloe. Her eyes were wide now, locked in panic. "I didn't know who she was," she stammered. She wasn't—" Marco raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. He didn't need to hear the rest. Ariel took a step forward, calm as ever, her sandals quiet against the floor. The sunlight still poured in through the lobby windows, but the mood had shifted. Completely. Guests began murmuring. A few phones tilted subtly in their owners' hands, camera lenses peeking just above handbags and pockets. Ariel turned her gaze to Chloe, not with spite, but with something heavier. Disappointment. "Now," she said quietly, "let's have that tour, shall we?" Chloe swallowed hard. She didn't speak. Ariel walked ahead with Marco beside her, the murmurs in the room growing louder behind them. No raised voice. No confrontation. Just presence and power, wrapped in a sundress, wearing sandals. The stone path curved gently through a lush garden of palms, orchids, and hibiscus, the scent of jasmine floating thick in the air. Sunlight filtered through broad leaves, casting dappled shadows across the manicured grounds. The quiet hum of fountains and distant ocean waves was the only sound between footsteps. Ariel walked slowly, deliberately, her sandals brushing against the path like whispers. Beside her, Marco kept pace, still visibly flustered, though trying to regain composure. Just a few paces behind, Chloe trailed silently. Her clipboard now an awkward accessory, her usual confidence reduced to something brittle and hollow. "These garden suites," Ariel said, gesturing toward a row of villas tucked between flowering trees. "Are they still using the teakwood finish on the outdoor decks?" Marco nodded quickly. "Yes, though we've had some minor maintenance concerns with the weathering." Ariel hummed thoughtfully. "Might be time to switch to the composite blend I suggested last quarter. It weathers better in salt air." Chloe blinked. Her eyes darted to Marco, then back to Ariel. She hadn't misheard. Suggested last quarter. "And the guest feedback surveys?" Ariel continued. "Are they still showing delays at check-in?" Marco cleared his throat. "Yes. We've been reviewing the front desk experience, looking into retraining and better sensitivity guidance." A beat of silence followed. Chloe's cheeks flushed. She knew exactly what that meant. Ariel didn't look back. She didn't need to. They passed a sleek infinity pool, its glassy surface catching the sunlight like a mirror. A couple lounging nearby looked up, their curiosity piqued. Whispers followed them like shadows. "These are some of the best villas we've built," Marco offered, eager to fill the silence. "And your design touches. Every guest notices. The archway ceilings, the ambient lighting, the eco-linen program. Brilliant." Ariel gave a small nod. "Sustainability matters, but so does dignity. People don't come here just for luxury. They come to feel seen, safe, respected." Her words weren't directed at anyone in particular, but Chloe felt each one like a stone dropping in still water, ripples spreading fast, impossible to ignore. They reached the main terrace overlooking the sea. Ariel paused, inhaling the salty breeze, her eyes scanning the horizon. "How many properties now?" she asked casually. 6 countries, Marco said. 12 resorts, all under Solara. And all under her name. Chloe stared at Ariel's back, the truth sinking deeper with every step. This wasn't just some well-connected guest. This woman was Solara, the architect of everything around them. The vision, the power, the reason Chloe even had a desk to stand behind. And she had dismissed her, judged her, reduced her. Ariel finally turned, meeting Chloe's eyes for the first time since the lobby. "This place was built to feel like home," she said softly. "For everyone who walks through the door." Then she walked on. And Chloe, for the first time all day, didn't know where to look. The sun had dipped slightly, casting a warm amber hue across the lobby's marble floors as Ariel stepped back inside. Guests moved about quietly, the earlier tension still lingering in the air like a low hum. Marco gave a subtle nod and stepped away, sensing what needed to happen next wasn't for a crowd. Chloe stood by the front desk, her posture stiff, hands clenched behind her back. Her face was pale, her eyes uncertain. She looked up as Ariel approached, the distance between them suddenly feeling like miles. "Come with me," Ariel said gently. Not a command, but an invitation. They walked to a quiet corner of the lobby, near a tall plant wall in a seating area that smelled faintly of citrus and polish. Ariel sat. Chloe followed, slow and uneasy, perching on the edge of the chair like she didn't deserve to stay long. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Ariel spoke, low, steady, without a trace of anger. "I was 12 the first time someone called me out of my name while I was trying to check into a hotel with my mother," she began. "We were dressed casual, tired. We'd saved for that trip. But the woman at the desk looked us over and told us we didn't belong. That feeling, it stays with you." Chloe's eyes welled, her breath shallow. "I built Solara," Ariel continued, "because I wanted to create something different. A place where people weren't judged by how they looked walking in the door. Where kindness was the currency. And still, here we are." Chloe lowered her head. "I didn't recognize you. I didn't know." "That's the point," Ariel said, gently but firmly. "You don't need to know someone to treat them with dignity. It shouldn't take wealth or status to earn basic respect." Her words settled into the air, quiet but immovable. I've been underestimated my whole life, she added. Dismissed, talked down to, passed over, and every time I used it to build something stronger. But not everyone gets that chance. That's why what we do, what you do, matters. Chloe's voice cracked as she whispered, I'm so sorry. Ariel leaned forward slightly, her tone softening but not losing its weight. Sorry isn't the end. It's the start. Growth begins when you're honest with yourself, when you stop excusing your bias and start unlearning it. Chloe nodded, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. I want to do better. I will. Ariel stood slowly, adjusting her bracelet. Then let this be the last time you don't see someone for who they are. She didn't offer a lecture. She didn't need to. Grace had done the work, and accountability had finally entered the room. By the next morning, the story had already taken flight. A guest who had been sipping espresso in the lobby during the incident wrote a detailed post online. It wasn't dramatic or embellished, just honest. A moment of prejudice, a woman who didn't flinch, a truth delivered with quiet strength. The post ended simply. I saw Power wear sandals yesterday, and she changed the room without raising her voice. It was shared hundreds of times, then thousands. Back at Solara Villas, the tone shifted. Staff began greeting guests with more intention, more care. Eye contact lingered longer. Smiles were warmer. Conversations became curious instead of cautious. Something had been awakened, not just in the employees, but in the culture. Chloe, once the face of assumption, became the face of change. She didn't fight the consequences. She leaned into them, took the training, asked the hard questions, listened. She began sitting in on inclusion workshops not because she had to, but because she wanted to understand. Over time, she became a voice in those rooms, sharing her story, her mistake, and what it taught her. Ariel said nothing publicly, no statement, no press release. She declined interviews, not out of pride, but principle. She didn't build Solara for applause. She built it for the girl she once was. Weeks later, at another Solara property tucked in the hills of northern Costa Rica, Ariel stood near the reception desk, watching the late afternoon sun spill across the wood-paneled walls. A little girl with cocoa skin and bright eyes ran through the front doors, her sundress fluttering behind her. Her parents followed, travel-weary but smiling. The receptionist, young, brown-skinned, radiant with hospitality, stepped forward with open warmth. Welcome to Solara, she said, crouching to greet the little girl first. We're so happy you're here. Ariel smiled, quietly, deeply. No one in the lobby knew who she was. No one needed to. She watched as the family was ushered in with ease, their presence met with nothing but joy. That was the victory. Not the headlines, not the shares, but this, a space where that little girl wouldn't have to prove her right to belong. Ariel turned toward the terrace, the breeze brushing gently against her face. She took a breath of jasmine-sweet air and walked into the evening. Behind her, the lobby hummed with welcome. And ahead of her, the world she'd helped shape waited. One villa, one lesson, one act of grace at a time.